Howdy, and welcome to Fort Worth, which is home for us. Jeff Stapleton and Ralph Poore.
Yeah, we're going to introduce ourselves real quick. So for those who don't know me, I'm Jeff Stapleton. I'm currently with Wells Fargo. I actually attended my first X9 standards meeting in 1989, so I've been doing this for just a little while. I've been chair of the X9F4 cryptography work group since 1998. I just had my 10-year anniversary at Wells Fargo, and I am inducted into the Wells Fargo Patent Hall of Fame. And as my daughter-in-law said, is that a real thing? Yes, it is. And I just had my 100th Wells Fargo patent, 2 years ago already. And then if you're not familiar with it, I am the author of the Security Without Obscurity books. You see the 5 that are posted there. I will say Ralph has been one of my book reviewers for all 5. And I will drop a hint that we are working on book 6, and Ralph is my co-author. Ralph?
Thank you, Jeff.
Introduce yourself, sir.
Okay. I'm a former director of PCI,
Here we go.
the emerging standards at the time. I am involved in X9 as the chairman of our PKI industry forum. I've been involved in X9 standards with regard to the X9F1 area, which is cryptography. And I will be going over and telling you about our timeline, the X9 PKI governance that we've created, the X9 PKI environments, and our X9 PKI use cases. And you see the agenda of the things we're going to cover there. So Jeff, let's start out with X9.
So I want to introduce X9 if you're not familiar with the organization, and that's on the far right. So to do that, I'm going to talk to the slide on the far left. We're going to begin with ISO, the International Standards Organization. ISO has over 174 countries that are members. They have over 300 technical committees. The one that we're going to talk about today is TC68 for financial services. Now, every country, in order to be a member, and the US certainly is one, they have to have a national standards body. For us, that is ANSI, the American National Standards Institute. Now, ANSI actually doesn't write standards themselves. They accredit other groups like X9 for financial services to help write those national standards. And ANSI has over 90 companies that are members, but this includes NIST is a member, PCI is a member, and X9, in addition to writing national standards, is also the US TAG, the Technical Advisory Group to TC68, but X9 is also the Secretariat, so literally the US is helping drive and manage the standards in TC68. So Ralph, let's talk about the timeline a little bit here.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm going to talk about pre-PKI history, the events that led to our having a public key infrastructure. In 1874, William Stanley Jevons described in his book, The Principles of Science, the relationship between one-way functions and cryptography, specifically the factorization problem used to create a trapdoor function. While this was not the invention of public key cryptography, it was the first published basis for its much, much later development. In 1976, James H. Ellis, a British cryptographer at the UK Government Communications Headquarters, or GCHQ, conceived the possibility of non-secret encryption, now called public key cryptography, but could see no way of implementing it. In 1973, his colleague Clifford Cox implemented what has become known as the RSA encryption algorithm, giving a practical method of non-secret encryption. In 1974, another GCHQ mathematician and cryptographer, Malcolm J. Williamson, developed what is now known as Diffie-Hellman key exchange. However, none of these GCHQ cryptographers were publicly acknowledged until 1997, when the UK declassified their work. So from a public perspective, in 1976, William Diffie, Martin Hellman, and Ralph Merkle developed the public key cryptography, PKC, Diffie-Hellman algorithm. In 1977, Ron Rivest, Adi Shamir, and Leonard Alderman introduced the RSA public key cryptosystem. Note that the first version of the X509 certificate standard was published in 1992 by the International Telecommunications Union. Jeff?
So I want to walk you through our little timeline arrow here, but before I do, please note on the far left, we have a list of X9 standards, X9.31, X9.44, and so on. And you notice these standards were written in the 1990s. So X9 actually has a large history, a rich knowledge base, and a lot of experience in developing standards relative to PKI. So in 2017, somebody, and I say someone because I can't find out who the author is, at an FSISAC event presented PKI for cards payments. This was forwarded to me. I took a look at it. I realized the problem that we were going to have with the PKI industry relative to financial services. I got a hold of several X9 folks, including Ralph. We went to X9, presented our problem, and we created the X9 PKI study group. The study group then developed a set of PKI use cases. At that time, we had 27 identified use cases that were either unique to financial services or specific to financial services. We also wrote up a proposal, and we recommended that we reactivate the X9 F5 PKI work group. We took that to the board in 2019. The board approved it. We called that phase 1 done. We moved on to the next steps, and we created an X9 certificate policy, or a CP, with the thought that we wanted to somewhere stand up an X9 financial PKI, and that their certificate policy standard, the CPS, would align with the X9 certificate policy. We created a business case. We took that back to the board in 2022. We presented it, they approved it, we moved on to the next phase, and we call that phase 2. We moved on to the next phase, and we created a request for proposal, an RFP, and we sent that out to the industry. I'm trying to remember, Ralph, at least 18 or more companies we sent the RFP out to.
Yes.
So we actually had a dozen companies show up for what we call the bidders conference. We got 3 formal submissions. We created an evaluation team, and both Ralph and I were on that team. We went through the RFPs, and out of the 3, we selected, quote, the winner. But then we had to get the MSA in place, the Master Service Agreement, and that took a while. So in 2025 early, we signed the MSA with DigiCert, who is the vendor we chose. We did a press release. We did a webinar with the DigiCert folks. We updated the use cases. We're now up to 34, and I'll show you a slide on that in a minute. And then we published the certificate policy, the CP. And then out of that, we formed the X9 PKI Industry Forum. Ralph is the convener of that group. We are putting together the X9 PKI Policy Group. And there's already an X9 PKI Operations Group. And you can probably guess Ralph and I are involved on that too. So Ralph, let's take a look at the overview of what X9 PKI looks like.
Right. In this slide, you can see that we have a life cycle where X9 is the financial PKI governing body. We have an X9 certificate policy that we developed. In DigiCert, they have a certificate policy. CPS, a certificate practice statement, that has to conform to our certificate policy, and they're responsible for the registration authority, the certificate authority, and they provide the X9 financial PKI operations. The repository includes both the CRL and OCSP. So this slide depicts the three environments that we support. We support a development PKI environment, a user acceptance test, UAT, and a production environment. Jeff, can you walk us through the PKI use cases?
Yes, as I mentioned, there's currently 34 use cases. These are published on the X9 site. We are working on more, so it's going to get a longer list. You see 4 of them highlighted in yellow, and I want to walk you through each of the use cases very quickly. So the first one is we call the content delivery network. So in the technologies we use today, a lot of organizations outsource their front-end processing for web services to a content delivery network provider. And so customers using their browser, maybe their mobile phones, they connect to what they think is the service provider, the FSP, and they actually go to the content delivery network because they can upload a lot of the information that is publicly available, and it just offloads a lot of the processing. However, if they want to do an online transaction, the CDN actually does a second TLS connection back to the actual financial service. And so the scope of this use case is that connection between the CDN and the financial service provider. And we're going to be using X9 certificates for that interconnection right there. The second use case is what we're calling ISO 222. Now this is the new message format that came out of the ISO standards. It's replacing a lot of the existing ones. FedNow is converted, I believe. Swift is converting. Many others are converting. Good old ISO 8583 that we all know and love is going to be converted over to ISO 222. And you see a diagram here where in the middle we have a gateway. And the idea that is each participant, participant 1, when they send a message through the gateway to participant 2, they're going to digitally sign the ISO 222 messages. This is new for us. And then when P2 sends it over to P3, they go through the gateway, and again, P2 is going to re-sign, P3 is going to verify the signature, and so on. And we're allowing up to 4 different participants in our current hierarchy. Another use case, and this is a really exciting one, is the QR code payments. So in my work group, X9F4, we had written a standard on how to secure QR codes using cryptographic methods. One of them would be digital signatures. In the X9 payments group, they're working on a new standard so that we're actually going to be giving QR codes which are going to be dynamically generated and presented from the merchant to the cardholder or the customer. And they're going to go the other way too, but right now we're only focused on merchant presentment. And the QR codes are actually going to have a digital signature on them so they can't be modified, they can't be spoofed. In addition, they've identified several other objects. The payload that's going to be in the transaction, I believe there's going to be a notification request message that will be signed. There's going to be a notification response message. And they're even thinking about another one. So this is really getting exciting. So one more to go. TLS host services. So normally when you think of a TLS, there's a client, there's a server, and the client says the hello to the server responds, and they do a TLS session. But a lot of times it's host to host, it's application to application. So there is no browser involved. And many times we have a host in the middle. So host A can send a TLS connection to host B, and then host B has to do another TLS connection to host C. Well, the host in the middle is both a server and a client, and they play a dual role. Well, what's happening out of the CAB forum, and they're mandating that they go to 47-day certificates, which is not compatible with financial services. And they're also saying they're disconnecting the server and the client in a single certificate. And so we actually have spun this up into the production environment. So relative to that then, I want to give you an update on where we're at with these use cases and the general PKI. So this is my attempt at a chart giving you everything that we have. As Ralph noted, we have 3 environments. We have the development environment. This is actually available at the X9 GitHub. You can go to that site, you can download the software development kit. We've pre-allocated keys, we've pre-allocated certificates, and you can bring this into your development environment and play with the X9 certificates. We also have a UAT, user acceptance test environment. Now this one is a little more complicated. You see I have a list of the routes and some of the issuing CAs. And you can see the RSA 2048, the RSA 4096, and the elliptic curve, the ECDSA 256. We allocated these routes all the way back in March. We allocated the ICAs because we're doing these per the use cases that was in that table we showed you a few minutes ago. And all this was done back in March. One of the updates we have, though, is the one for the QR code. We just spun up the ICA back in July. Now, what's not on this chart, because this just happened last week, is the MLDSA roots. We actually had a key ceremony 2 weeks ago, I believe.
Yes.
And we allocated all 3 roots, and we allocated 17 issuing CAs. So to our knowledge, we are the first PKI ever to actually have MLDSA certificates available for downloading and testing. That's an exciting issue. Then comes the production environment. So we did RSA 2048, RSA 4096. We did the ECDSA 256. I think we did the 521 too, actually. My chart might be wrong. We are not allocating the MLDSAs for production yet because we're waiting for the HSM vendor to complete their FIPS certification. Once that is done, we will then be spinning up the production units for the MLDSA. So that is pretty much the overview of everything we've done. I'm very excited about this. Ralph, any feedback on this from you?
Okay. Next slide.
We're at the end. That's just the references.
Okay.
Oh, I do remember something we wanted to say. So in the production unit, the ICAs are stood up. We are actually issuing, I say we, really DigiCert, they're actually issuing production certificates. We had a call yesterday, and my understanding is the organizations that want these certificates for testing for the MLDSA scenario for TLS, it includes technology companies, financial institutions, and pharmaceutical.
And yes, and healthcare more generally, yes.
And if I remember the conversation, these organizations are located in the United States, Australia, Germany,
Canada.
And who did they say was the new one?
Hungary.
Hungary, yes, okay. So this is being accepted on a worldwide basis. The total number of certificates and the actual buyers of the certificates, those are DigiCert's customers. So we really can't tell you much about them because, honestly, we don't really know much about them. Nor should we, because X9, as Ralph pointed out, we are the governing body of this. We are not the operations side. DigiCert owns and operates all of this for us, and we thank them a lot for all the work they've been doing. So you can see, in 2025, we've been very, very busy. We've stood up almost the entire PKI. I don't know when the MLDSA productions are going to be stood up. We're waiting on that certification I mentioned. Could be days, weeks, months, we're not really sure, but it will be soon. That's pretty much everything I had to say, Ralph.
Okay. You will note that the software development...
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to go back?
Yes. Go back.
We'll go back a slide? Yeah, thank you.
You will note that the software development kit SDK is already available, as is a user acceptance test UAT root CA environment for RSA 2048, RSA 4096, and ECDSA 256. An X9 financial PKI production root CA is also available for RSA 248, RSA 496, and ECDA 256. We
That
have
reminds me, we had another update
over there. What?
We had another update. The UAT certificate for the QR code testing, we actually issued the certificate, I believe, 2 days ago.
Yes.
So we actually are making progress on the new use cases. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in participating, you can join the X9 financial community. There is no charge for that. You do not need to be an X9 member.
To be a member of the forum.
They fill out a form.
The forum, yes. And if you choose to join X9, you could also participate in the X9 F5 work area, which is developing the standards in the PKI area. Next. Thank you. And here are some resources that are available for your further information. Those are all good links as of the time that we produced this presentation.
My last comment is we are going to be posting a form to fill out a new PKI use case. I don't know if it's been posted yet. It will be available. And so if anyone has an interest in a new use case that isn't in our current list, you can download the form, you can fill it out, you can submit it to X9, and we'll be more than happy to take a look at it.
Okay. We'll also be around if you have any questions following this session.
That's my last comment.
That's
Anything
mine
from you,
too.
Ralph?
Thanks, Jeff. Well, I hope you all have a great time here. Thank you.